High stakes, heart-pounding moments, pressure like you wouldn't believe, almost flops, and moments that I will always remember. This is the Nick Solomon Show, the Sports Strata Podcast. Let's get it started.
Spangston scores! Watford for the win! Yes! Yes! You can't make this stuff up, folks.
That all young guys should really take back and look at what this man has done.
Back, guys. Happy New Year. The wait is finally over. I am back officially with the new iteration of the Nick Solomon Show, the Sports Charter Podcast. I'm so happy to be able to come back, get in this chair, and start talking some sports again. You know, I had a really good sort of winter holiday break. Hope you guys had the same thing as well. As promised, some changes were coming to the show here, so I hope you enjoy it going forward here. As you will pretty much catch on really quickly here as we get into this episode, I am bringing this episode a week late. That's just because at the time of this recording, we weren't quite ready to push this out to you guys yet. So I hope that the wait was well worth it for you. But we have a great show for you guys today, and I'm excited to bring this to you. You've heard me say we a couple times. I just want to let you know it is still me, myself, and I in the production for all of this. So me referring to we is basically just me. So let's just dive right into this episode. And this episode is going to really just sort of straight to the point here. We're going to talk about the college football playoffs. We're going to talk about the Colts. So I'm going to lay that for you guys right off the bat, just to let you know what we're going to talk about, because it is a huge week for both. Real quickly, though, I just wanted to recap the CFP semifinal games. Alabama versus Michigan, and then it was Texas versus Washington. And we could not have been, as a collegiate sports fan, we could not have been treated to two just absolutely incredible games. Both games coming down to the wire. Both games with so much on the line. Both games were just absolutely worth it. One could say that the committee got it right. I don't know. But they were both exciting to watch. And you couldn't have asked for better semifinal games than what we were just treated to this past weekend. So we'll just get into the first game. Alabama versus Michigan. And we did it. They did it. Finally. After 3 straight CFP semifinal appearances, they broke through in their third try. Third time's a charm sometimes. And Michigan was able to beat Alabama and head to the national championship for the first time since 1997. Wow. And I just gotta... It's been a long season. It's been a long time. Been a lot of struggle, a lot of hills, a lot more valleys. But one could say this was like a team of destiny. You know, a lot had transpired throughout the season. Pushed through all of that animosity. Pushed through all of those potential distractions. All that pressure. You made it to the top. Now let's go finish it. Let's go finish it. So to talk about Alabama versus Michigan, heading into this matchup, I was scared. Because Alabama is Alabama. They've been there and they've done that. They've written this story a bunch of times. Either being the first seed, second seed, fourth seed. They probably have punched their ticket to the national championship because that is what is expected of them. That's what their coach expects. That's what the media expects. And honestly, that's what probably half of the nation expected. Alabama was going to win. And Michigan didn't back down. Oh, we were prepared. It started off from the jump very shaky, though. I mean, the J.J. McCarthy almost interception on the first play. I mean, talk about just here we go again. It's deja vu all over again. And they didn't falter. No. Alabama might have scored first, which, by the way, they're 66-0 when Alabama scores the first score in the first quarter. They're 66-0. Well, now they're 66-1. Alabama scored the first touchdown. It was 7-0. Michigan didn't blink. They marched right down the field, and they answered. Right down the field. I tell you what, it was a slug match the whole entire game. But from the very start, Michigan looked like the better team. Michigan won in overtime, 27-20. And the reason why I even got to overtime, you could say Michigan shot themselves in the foot. It should not have been as close as it was, and Alabama should not have had the lead going into the fourth quarter like they did. Michigan's special teams, of all the areas, they've been solid all year long in special teams. And they were just absolutely sloppy. Punt game, the extra point team, the kicker, the return. I'm fearful if they would have actually brought a kickoff return out of the end zone, what that could have been like. We'll start with the punting game. I mean, Doman, the punter, probably had his worst game all year long. The kicker, who's escaping me right now, I'm sure I'll flash his name here on the screen, who's been reliable all year long, completely shanked. I will say, it was a long field goal. It wasn't like an easy try, but he completely shanked it. Way to the left. Not even close. And then we had two muffed punt returns. One, a true freshman tried to do a running catch. Thought his momentum could carry him as he could keep running. Just completely dropped it. And then late in the game, in a crucial area in the game, we decided to yank out our freshman returner and put in a senior returner, be more trusty. And instead of catching the ball or letting the ball go out of bounds on the 5-yard line potentially, he decides to try and run up and catch it. And he muffed it. The 5-yard line. That ball is rolling back into the end zone. Michigan players touched it. You got Alabama players raining down on you. Maybe the play of the game was the fact that when he went back to corral the bobbling loose ball that's on the ground, as soon as he recovered it, he got smacked into the end zone. The fact that he held on to that ball and it didn't just ricochet out of him, because 9 out of 10 times you get hit like that with a ball like that, that ball's coming right back out. Would have been a touchdown, game over. So now the game goes into overtime. And by the way, Alabama's special teams were on point. Their punter was like their lethal weapon. Their kicker nailed 2 50-yard field goals. So the game goes into overtime. Oh, I'm sorry. So Michigan was down 13-20 with 4 minutes left. Go from their 25-yard line or 27-yard line. And they marched that ball all the way down. Some unbelievable heroics, some unbelievable play. Going forward on 4th down with like 2-something or 3-something to go in the game, at your own 30, 35-yard line, 4th and 2. You go down and score. There's a minute and a half left. You don't go for 2, you go for 1. Because you believe in your defense. You believe your defense can stop them from getting into field goal range. And they did. We go to overtime. Michigan gets the ball first. 2 plays is all it took. 2 running plays. That's been Michigan's bread and butter the past 3 years. One more time. First, a little read out for 8 yards to the right. And the other what looked like a draw straight up the middle. That lane closed like that. running back Blake Corum jump cuts to the outside, makes a defender miss, and just breaks 2-3 tackles, gets into the end zone, becomes the all-time leading touchdown rusher in Michigan history while doing so. Alabama gets the ball back. They have to score. They get a first down at about the 3-yard line. No, not about the 12-yard line. First down doesn't really do anything. Second down doesn't do anything. Third down completes it to about the 3-yard line. It is 4th and goal at the 3-yard line. And you have got the most explosive, elusive quarterback for Alabama staring at the end zone 3 yards away. My heart was pounding. Low snap, he gets the ball anyway, runs straight up the middle into the heart of the Michigan defense and stuffed him. On 4th down, game is over. Michigan is Rose Bowl champions, semifinal champions, and are headed to the national championship game. Let's just say some tears were shed. Some jumping occurred, to say the least. Been a long time coming. To move on ahead to the game right after that one, which, by the way, if we were just treated to that, that would have been enough. No, we were given 2 instant classics. Texas and Washington game. I had Texas winning that game, actually, because I thought they were the overall better team. But I said I wouldn't be surprised if Washington would win because of that passing attack. Man, was that on display. Michael Penix absolutely put on a clinic through the air to the tune of 430 yards passing. Now, Texas doesn't have the best pass defense, but everything on their defense is predicated from their defensive line. They have one of the best defensive lines in the nation. Everything flows from that. They got pressure on Penix 16 times. 1 sack. In comparison, Michigan got 12 pressures on Alabama's quarterback with 6 sacks. That makes a difference. Penix did a great job of moving in the pocket, manipulating the defense with his feet, and just completely slinging the ball. 430 yards. The score was 37-31. So, in the first half, whenever Washington scored, Texas did answer. They answered. Same thing happened in the second half, and it came down to this. Washington could have completely just ended the game. Yet a fluke injury happened, a crazy injury happened that stopped the clock. Texas got this stop. Texas gets the ball back, and they march the ball down the field. To the same instance as happened in the overtime game with Alabama and Michigan. Texas was within 10 yards with 4 tries to try to get it into the end zone, and they would have won. And it's just crazy how that game ended. 4 tries and they didn't get in. 2 passes sailed into the end zone by Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers, and that's all she wrote. It's Washington and Michigan in the CFP National Championship game. It's number 1 versus number 2. It's how it should be, 2 undefeated teams. So let's move on ahead to the final here. Again, you could not have gotten a better matchup between 2 really good teams. And nobody really had Washington going to the finals. I mean, they were going to be a good team because they were a good team last year. No one really had them going to the final. All for Michigan, it's could they beat Ohio State again? Could they get past the hump of a semifinal game? So here they are. Here both these teams are. For Washington, I'm going to break down sort of the keys to win here for both of these teams. For Washington, if they could just keep doing what they're doing, if they can have another game like they just did, absolutely they can win this. So air it out as much as possible, and probably go up tempo too. One area that Michigan can keep them on their heels is to go up tempo. Don't let them substitute, because they have one of the deepest defenses in the nation. So if Michigan can't sub their defensive linemen off the field, go up tempo. You can wear out that defense, but that's kind of just one area for Washington to win. Michigan can win in a multitude of areas: on the ground, through the air. Both these teams have veteran quarterbacks. One could say Michael Penix is probably the better of the two quarterbacks, absolutely, and maybe the more talented. But I'm riding with J.J. McCarthy every day, all day long. His will to win, I have seen, and it's proven. Oh, and by the way, not that Michigan's pass defense is bad, because they're the number 2 team in pass defense. So number 1 passing offense in Washington going against the number 2 passing defense in Michigan. So that's going to be a very exciting matchup. I have Michigan winning just because this matchup favors Michigan. If you look back to the COVID year and every year prior to that, let's just go the past decade and a half. Michigan had a real big trouble going against Ohio State. The defense that they had under then coordinator Don Brown, man coverage, they pretty much would overmatch and overpower every other opponent on their schedule. Until they went against an offense that had elite wide receivers, elite offensive playmakers. And Michigan's defense would get exposed. And sad to say, many times got obliterated. Until they made a change. COVID year had happened. Michigan just was not the Michigan team. Changes on the coaching staff occurred. Rumors swirled of Harbaugh getting fired. He ended up taking a pay cut. And he made a decision that forever changed the way Michigan has been the past few years. And he called his brother. And he's adopted the Raven-style defense. First with, I cannot remember his first name, but McDonald. And then with Jesse Minter. And since then, Michigan has not only been able to still beat every other opponent on their schedule, but compete and beat Ohio State the past 3 years. The 2021 Ohio State team with C.J. Stroud, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, you could say a young Marvin Harrison and a young Emeka Egbuka on that team. That was the best offense in the nation, probably, with the best skill set of receivers. And Michigan beat them. Now, Ohio State put up a bunch of yards in that 2021 game, but they beat them. I say that because this Washington team is very similar to that 2021 Ohio State team, with Rome Odunze, Jason Polk, McMillan, the third wide receiver. I mean, that's probably the best wide receiver group in the nation this year. High-flying offense. Michigan is tailor-made now to go against a team like Washington. That is why I think this matchup favors Michigan, just because of that. Now, Washington can win, like I explained earlier, but this matchup is tailor-made for Michigan to win, and I expect Michigan to win. The over-under coming out right away was Michigan by 4.5. I have Michigan winning probably to the tune of 31-21. 31-21. And I see Michigan controlling this game early and then maintaining that. So that's how I feel like this CFP final game is going to go. Again, I am super excited for this, and if Michigan can win, just wait till that next podcast comes out. Whoo. We got more excitement, though, coming up this next weekend here with the NFL playoff scenarios happening. Week 18 is upon us here, and this is not one you just turn off. this is the week. This is the week to watch. So many different teams are vying for either divisional crowns, playoff seeding, or playoff appearances. So much is on the line. So many different teams. There's so many different scenarios out there as well that it's just going to be a great football weekend. Just to keep it in the AFC standpoint here, there's, I believe, 36 different playoff scenarios that can occur. 36 or 32. I think it's 32. 32. And that's just wild. As you see, the Colts are a part of 4 of those scenarios. They can either be the 2 seed, the 6 seed, or the 7th. I'm sorry, not the 2 seed. I wish. They could either be the 4 seed, the 6 seed, or the 7th seed, depending on other games go. The Colts have a huge game this coming year. At the beginning of this year, I had the Colts winning 9 games, them going 9-8. They are currently at 9-7. So I hope that at the end of week 18, I am completely wrong. Because they need that one win. I want to be completely wrong on my in-season prediction. To go from a 4-13 team, or 4-12-1 team the year prior, to potentially 10-7 and making the playoffs, that's an incredible turnaround. The Colts need to beat the Texans, and it's going to be a rough game because the Colts and the Texans have the same record. Both teams, if they win, will be in the playoffs guaranteed. It's a win-and-in scenario for both teams. I have the Colts winning this game, and the biggest reason, honestly the biggest factor as to why, is because the Colts are at home. These two teams last met in week 2, and the Colts won. The score is closer to what the game actually felt. The Colts pretty much dominated Houston at Houston. But coming into this year, nothing was really expected too much of both of these teams. And boy, have they proved all the doubters wrong. Both these teams are in position to not only get into the playoffs, but depending on how the Jacksonville and Tennessee game goes, the winner of the Colts and Texans game could end in one of those teams winning the division as well. So for the Colts standpoint, to go from 4-12-1 to 10-7 and winning the division, I mean, that's an incredible 1-year turnaround. And the Colts haven't won the division since, I think, 2014. 2014? What makes this upcoming weekend really exciting is that there's many teams like the Colts and the Texans where both teams need to win to either get into the playoffs or to advance their seeding or to secure their already playoff spot. But there's also some teams that are in the same boat as the Colts, but they're going against opponents who have either nothing to play for or they're already in the playoffs. They've locked up their seeding and they're resting their starters. You can't control how the NFL season will end. You can't control how these matchups are going to go. You can't control where teams are at the end of the year. So for some matchups, it might be unfair. Like the Steelers need to win and a little bit of help to get into the playoffs. They're going against the Baltimore Ravens, who have everything already locked up and are playing for nothing, who are resting their starters. So for another team that might need Pittsburgh to lose, to know that that's an even tougher ask, the fact that they're going against a team that's resting everything, that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. All I know is the Colts need to win, and they're in. Now, if I want the best case scenario, I'm wanting the Colts to win and Jacksonville to lose, so we can be the 4th seed. And we'd end up playing Cleveland at home, and I would take that rematch, because if you remember Colts versus Cleveland back at the end of October, Colts had that win, and 2 absolutely horrendous refs calls extended the Cleveland drive and ended up winning at the very end. I want that rematch with Cleveland, absolutely. More than likely, I think Jacksonville's going to win their game. So I said the Colts could get the 6th seed or the 7th seed. If the Colts are the 7th seed, then their matchup will be against Buffalo or Miami. If they're the 6th seed, their matchup will be against Kansas City. Now, which matchup would I rather take? I'd rather take at Kansas City. Absolutely. That's a crazy answer to say just because Kansas City is a reigning Super Bowl champion. Kansas City has hosted the past 5 AFC championship games at home. 5 in a row, all 5 at home. Won 2 out of the past 3 Super Bowls. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Kansas City would be at home too. I'd rather play at Kansas City. Because how the teams are right now, compared to Miami or Buffalo, Kansas City isn't looking that great. Kansas City looks beatable. So I would take that, and especially at home too. So I would take that matchup. The scenarios on how we get to the 6th seed, I believe Miami has to win. And Miami has to win. I think that's Miami has to win, and there's another one. Miami has to win, and oh goodness, I can't even think of. I think just Miami has to win for us to get to the 6th seed. The Colts have to win, obviously, but I think Miami has to win for us to get to the 6th seed. So we're rooting for Miami. We're actually rooting for Miami and Tennessee because we won the 4th seed. Really, if the Colts win, it's really just, is Tennessee going to win? Because it doesn't really matter at that point if Miami or Buffalo wins. But for the 7th seed, for us to be the 7th seed, I believe that comes down to Buffalo winning. So we would actually play Buffalo, and we would be the 7th seed in that scenario because Miami would then take the 6th seed. So I'd rather not play at Buffalo. Even though we have playoff experience versus both at Kansas City and at Buffalo in recent history, and the game at Buffalo is a lot closer than our game at Kansas City, but I'd rather play at Kansas City. So a lot is happening this weekend. A lot is happening. A lot of drama, a lot of high stakes, a lot of heart pounding. I'm here for it. I'm excited for it. And thank you so much for coming back and watching the Nick Solomon Show here. I'm super excited for what this springtime has to offer. I mean, we'll have baseball kicking off here, and we'll have basketball continue to go on. March Madness is just around the corner. So many things to talk about. So I look forward to sharing all that with you, and I will catch you guys next week. Take care.